The story begins in July 1976. A confidential memo from NASA's Mars project is sent to the NSA. It confirms that a man named Arlington Stewart, previously pronounced dead, has been resuscitated and moved to a secure location. Following his recovery, Stewart begins constructing devices of unknown purpose and delivering them to private homes. These devices are connected to a mysterious project linked to Mars. 5 months later, in a quiet Virginia suburb, married couple Arthur and Norma Lewis are awakened at 5:45 a.m. by the sound of their doorbell. Arthur remains in bed, while Norma walks downstairs to check the door. She sees a black car quietly pulling away from their house. When she opens the front door, she finds a small package sitting on the doorstep. Inside the package is a plain wooden box with a single red button enclosed under a locked glass dome. Alongside the box is a folded card. It reads, "Mr. Stewart will call at 5 p.m. Arthur and Norma sit down for breakfast with their young son, Walter. None of them knows anyone by the name of Mr. Stewart, and they cannot figure out what the box is supposed to do. They leave it on the table and continue with their day. Arthur heads to his job at NASA's Langley Research Center. He works in the optics division and helped develop the camera for the Viking Mars probe. At the office, Arthur watches a press briefing about the Mars program. Later, he meets with a supervisor who gives him unexpected news. His application to the astronaut program has been rejected. Arthur had passed all the physical requirements, but failed the psychological evaluation. Meanwhile, Norma goes to her job at a private high school where she teaches literature. During a class discussion about Sartre's No Exit, a student named Charles bluntly asks why she limps and challenges her to show the class her foot. Faced with the embarrassment, Norma takes off her boot and sock. Her right foot is severely deformed. 4 of her toes are missing. After class, Norma is called to the principal's office. She's informed that due to changes in policy, she will no longer receive a faculty discount for her son's tuition. The principal's nose begins to bleed during the conversation, but he doesn't acknowledge it. Norma is shocked and upset. Without the discount, they may not be able to afford Walter's school. That afternoon, Norma returns home. At exactly 5 p.m., a man arrives at the door. He introduces himself as Arlington Stewart. He is dressed in a formal suit and carries a black briefcase. The left side of his face is grotesquely disfigured, with what appears to be burn damage. He hands Norma the key to open the glass dome and calmly explains the purpose of the box. If she or her husband presses the button, 2 things will happen. First, someone in the world whom they do not know will die. Second, they will receive $1 million in cash. Mr. Stewart pulls out a crisp $100 bill from his briefcase and hands it to her. He says it's hers to keep, whether or not the button is ever pressed. He then explains that she has exactly 24 hours to decide. The box will be collected at 5 p.m. the following day. No questions about the identity of his employers will be answered. Before Norma can respond or ask anything else, Stewart turns and walks away. He gets into the same black car she saw earlier and drives off. That evening, Arthur returns home. He and Norma each share the difficult news from their day. Norma tells him about Stewart's visit and the bizarre offer involving the button. Arthur is skeptical and disturbed by the idea. They lock the box inside a safe and try to distract themselves by attending a local theater performance, leaving Walter at home with his babysitter, Dana. Even while watching the play, neither of them can stop thinking about the box. They whisper to each other about what it could mean. Someone appears to be watching them from a distance. When they return home, they retrieve the box from the safe. Arthur examines it more closely. He manages to open a small panel at the bottom, expecting to find electronic parts or a tracking device. But the compartment is completely empty. This raises a new question. If there's no technology inside, how would anyone know if the button is actually pressed? The next day, Arthur returns to work. He runs a series of tests on the $100 bill that Stewart gave Norma. All results confirm that it's genuine. He brings the bill home and tells Norma the money is real. Faced with increasing financial stress, the looming cost of Walter's tuition, and the risk of losing her planned foot surgery, Norma feels trapped. Without warning, she suddenly reaches out and presses the button. It clicks. The red switch rises slightly. At that same time, in another part of the city, a 911 call is placed. Police respond to a domestic disturbance. Inside a home, officers find a woman dead from a gunshot wound to the heart. A little girl is discovered locked in the upstairs bathroom. Her father, Jeffrey Carnes, is missing. That evening, Stewart returns to the Lewis home. He hands Arthur and Norma a suitcase containing exactly $1 million in cash. He does not ask if they press the button. He simply gives them the money and takes the box back. He tells them it will be reprogrammed and delivered to someone else, someone they do not know. Before he leaves, Stewart subtly warns them, just as someone else has died for their reward, someone else's decision may eventually affect them. He implies that one day, it could be Arthur, Norma, or their son who dies because of someone else pressing the button. Arthur chases Stewart out to the street, trying to return the money. Stewart does not respond. He gets into his black car and drives away. Arthur watches as the car disappears and memorizes the license plate. Later that night, Arthur and Norma go to a dinner party for Norma's sister's wedding rehearsal. The atmosphere is cheerful, but Arthur remains troubled. During a holiday gift exchange, guests are asked to select from a table of wrapped presents. Norma's student Charles is working the event as a waiter. He catches Arthur's attention and subtly flashes a peace sign, 2 fingers. Following the gesture, Arthur selects a simple brown box that looks familiar. When he and Norma open it at their table, they find a photo of Arlington Stewart taken before his facial injury. Arthur begins to feel that something deeper and more organized is happening. Later, Arthur speaks privately with Charles, who acts aloof. Arthur grows uncomfortable. He asks another guest about Charles and learns that he was the same student who publicly questioned Norma about her foot. Arthur becomes upset and confronts Charles aggressively. Meanwhile, Norma is approached by another waiter who tells her she has a phone call. The waiter's nose begins to bleed. Norma takes the call. It's Stewart. He warns her that contacting law enforcement violates the rules. He is fully aware that Arthur has asked Norma's father, a police officer, to look up his license plate number. Norma runs outside and finds Arthur angrily confronting Charles. She stops the situation before it escalates. As they return to their car, they find that someone has written "no exit" on the frosted windshield. It's the same phrase from Sartre's play that was discussed in Norma's classroom. Back at the house, Walter has fallen asleep while watching TV with the babysitter, Dana. Arthur offers to drive Dana home. During the drive, Dana begins making cryptic statements. She asks unsettling questions like, "What's pushing your buttons?" and repeats phrases like, "Look into the light." Suddenly, Dana's nose begins to bleed and she loses consciousness. Arthur pulls the car over and checks her purse. Inside, he finds an ID card with a different name, Sarah Matthews from Boston. Dana wakes up abruptly and insists Arthur leave immediately. She tells him he's in danger and must go home. At the motel, every room she passes has its door open. Guests silently watch her as she makes her way back to her room. Inside is a map and a board covered with photos of Arthur, Norma, and Walter. When Arthur gets home, he tells Norma about Dana's false identity. He begins to suspect that she and others are working for Stewart in some unknown capacity. Arthur examines a framed NASA photo in his basement and finds Stewart in the picture. It was taken during the Viking Mars project, confirming that Stewart once worked in NASA. The next day, Norma goes shopping with her mother. At the store, a panicked woman approaches her. She tells Norma not to trust her husband and instructs her to look up a specific call number at the Richmond Public Library. She says NASA and the NSA are allowing him to do this. Then, the woman collapses with a bleeding nose. Separately, Arthur visits the police station again and speaks with Norma's father. He's informed that the car Stewart drove is registered to the NSA. Arthur asks to be taken to the house where the woman was recently killed. At the scene, Arthur finds a photo of Stewart and a government manual titled Human Resource Exploitation. Inside is a reference to the same library call number. Arthur realizes the woman was murdered at the exact same time Norma pressed the button. Later, both Arthur and Norma visit the library. They arrive separately. Norma avoids Arthur, following the warning given by the woman in the supermarket. Norma finds a film reel labeled with the call number. The footage shows an earlier NASA press event. Stewart appears in the video, fully intact, before his disfigurement. The footage also includes material about a lightning strike that damaged part of the NASA facility. Meanwhile, Arthur is followed by numerous patrons in the library. They stare silently as he walks through the building. Eventually, he is approached by a woman who identifies herself as Stewart's wife, Climby. She leads him through a restricted area to a large, dimly lit hall. Inside are 3 shimmering gateways made of upright water. Climby tells Arthur that only one of them leads to salvation. The other 2 lead to eternal damnation. Arthur remembers Charles flashing 2 fingers at the party. He chooses the second gateway. As soon as he steps into the column of water, he is absorbed by a blinding white light. Meanwhile, Norma is approached by 2 pale, expressionless women. They lead her down a hallway to a private room where Stewart is waiting. Stewart asks how she felt when she saw his burned face. Norma responds sincerely. She says she felt love, not pity, because she knows what it's like to carry physical pain. She explains that her brother once dropped a heavy barbell on her foot. A careless technician left her in an active X-ray machine for too long, which destroyed the tissue in her toes. Ever since then, she has struggled to accept her appearance. But seeing Stewart made her realize she didn't need to feel sorry for herself. Her injury could be hidden. His could not. Moved by her honesty, Stewart reaches out and takes her hand. Norma immediately loses consciousness. She later wakes up in bed. Floating in the air above her is Arthur, still suspended in the same glowing water he entered at the library. Moments later, he falls onto the bed, and the column of water crashes down with him, soaking the room and flooding the staircase. Walter hears the noise and comes to check on his parents. He asks what's going on, but they don't respond. The following morning, the Lewis family cleans up the water damage in silence. Walter keeps asking questions, but Arthur and Norma remain quiet. They don't understand what's happening, and they don't want their son involved. Meanwhile, at NASA, Arthur's colleague Cahill is called into a private meeting with a representative from the NSA. The man informs him that Stewart was struck by lightning months ago during the Viking program. Officially, he died. But hours later, while in cold storage at a military hospital, a nurse heard him laugh. When he was examined, he was somehow alive again. Since that moment, Stewart has changed. He shows no signs of aging or cell decay. He also appears to possess unusual abilities. Cahill is disturbed, but he is warned to stay quiet and comply with any further requests. Back at the Lewis home, Arthur and Norma try to resume their daily life. But the presence of the money, the haunting experience at the library, and the water gateway continue to weigh on. One evening, while driving, Arthur spots Dana, whose real name is Sarah, among a group of strangers. They are silently gathering near a large pool at the motel where she had stayed. All of them walk toward the water in a trance-like state. That night, Arthur and Norma attend Norma's sister's wedding. They try to act normal and enjoy the celebration. While dancing, Arthur confesses to Norma that the white space he passed through, the light beyond the second gateway, felt peaceful. It was not heaven or hell, but something in between. He describes it as a place without despair in the human heart. Outside the venue, Stewart's observers continue to watch them from a distance. Later in the night, Arthur becomes dizzy and steps away from the reception to get some fresh air. As he exits the building, he is confronted by a man holding a gun. It's Jeffrey Carnes, the NASA engineer whose wife was killed and daughter rescued. He forces Arthur into a truck and drives away. Inside the vehicle, Jeffrey shares his story. Stewart presented him with the same choice that Arthur now faces. In his case, his daughter was rendered deaf and blind, just like Walter. The only way to save her was to shoot his wife. He did it, and now he lives in hiding, haunted by the decision. He shows Arthur a set of classified files. Among them is a note that Stewart cannot fully manipulate people who have frontal lobe hemorrhage, like Dana or others who have suffered nosebleeds. Jeffrey believes Stewart uses these people as intermediaries because he cannot directly influence. Jeffrey reveals that Walter has been taken to a motel and is being lowered into a pool, the same kind of water gateway Arthur passed through. Arthur realizes that Stewart is repeating the test cycle. Suddenly, the truck screeches to a stop. A man dressed as Santa Claus is blocking the road. Before either of them can react, the second vehicle crashes violently into them. The impact kills Jeffrey instantly. When police arrive, Arthur is found near the wreck, but unharmed. He is escorted back to NASA, where Cahill is waiting for him. Cahill warns Arthur that his next decision carries more weight than he understands. Arthur is then transported back to his home. Norma is already there, along with Stewart. Their son, Walter, is locked in the upstairs bathroom. He is now deaf and blind. Stewart tells Arthur and Norma this is their final test. He lays out their two choices clearly. They may keep the $1 million and continue to live their lives, but their son will remain disabled for the rest of his life. Or Arthur can shoot Norma through the heart. If he does, Walter's hearing and sight will be restored immediately. The money will also be placed in a high-interest bank account, held in trust until Walter turns 18. Arthur is horrified. He grabs the gun Stewart has left on the table and threatens to kill him instead. But Stewart calmly explains that killing him won't help. Arthur will be arrested and labeled insane. The system will erase all evidence. The test must proceed. Stewart then leaves the house, telling them that Walter is upstairs, locked in the bathroom. Arthur and Norma rush to the door. They try yelling and banging, but Walter cannot hear them. They are unable to get the door open without risking injury. Time is running out. Downstairs, they sit together. Norma tells Arthur she cannot live knowing her son will never see or hear again. She believed that her life can still serve a purpose by giving Walter a future. Arthur pleads with her not to ask him to do it, but she gently insists. She tells him it's the only way. They embrace, crying. Arthur kisses her one final time. Then, he shoots her through the heart. At that exact moment, in a different house nearby, another couple is sitting at their kitchen table. They stare at the same kind of box that Arthur and Norma once received. After a long silence, the woman presses the button. Police officers arrive at the Lewis home moments later. They find Arthur holding Norma's body. Upstairs, Walter is awake. His sight and hearing have been restored. Arthur rushes to him and hears his son call out for him. It's the first time Walter has spoken since being taken. Arthur is arrested, but instead of being placed in a squad car, he is escorted into a black government vehicle. Cahill assures him that Walter will be looked after and raised with full care and support. From an upstairs window, Walter watches silently as his father is driven away. Meanwhile, Arlington Stewart walks up to the home of the couple who just pressed the button. He carries a black suitcase. He knocks on their door. He is ready to deliver the $1 million. And that's the full story of the box.